is an awesome God He raised from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God.
Don't be shy about coming up, everybody.
Yeah,
but
come
I do
on
have
up
some.
and stand in line.
Come stand behind me. I have a few pre-submitted questions. When you read about ISIS slaughtering Christian children, women, etc. in the Middle East, it sounds a lot like what God told Joshua to do in the Promised Land. How can Christians be outraged by ISIS and yet worship the God who sent Joshua to do his own version of ethnic cleansing?
This is a very agonizing question that any believer in biblical authority faces. And I've written on this on our website in Question of the Week number 16, and then I revisit it again, I believe, in Question of the Week 238. And so if you want a fuller development of this issue, I would suggest you look at Question 16 and Question 238. Let me just say this. There is a world of difference between the judgment upon Canaan that God commanded and the Islamic idea of jihad. Jihad is a religious war. It is the use of violence to convert people to the religion of Islam. If the people that you're having jihad against repent and become Muslims, then you're not to kill them anymore because now they're Muslims. It is a use of violence in the propagation of the Islamic faith. It is a tool of evangelism, in effect. That is completely different than the invasion of Canaan in the Old Testament. That was an example of God's judgment upon these corrupt Canaanite tribes that were inhabiting the land of Canaan at that time. You remember, God allowed Israel to languish for 400 years in Egypt, in slavery, before he brought them out, because he said, the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. God waited until these Canaanite tribes were so evil, so reprobate, that they were ripe for judgment. And then he delivered the land over to Israel, and he used the armies of Israel as a tool of judgment, as a means of bringing judgment on them. But it wasn't a religious war. It wasn't an attempt to convert these people to Judaism. It wasn't a means of spreading Judaism. So it's a world of difference. God was judging the nations of Canaan in the same way that he would later judge Israel when he allowed the armies of Babylon to come in and destroy Israel and take its people into exile. So there's a world of difference between what ISIS and other jihadists are doing and the sort of judgment that God brought upon Canaan and then later brought upon Israel itself. Now, that leaves a host of questions still unanswered, but I would refer you at least to those questions that I've written, and I think this does help us to see that there is an enormous difference between using war and violence as a tool of evangelism and the kind of judgment that God brought upon the Canaanite tribes and then later upon Israel itself.
Our God is an awesome God He raised from heaven above with